A very good afternoon and welcome. This is the Monday edition of Market View, proudly sponsored by the Eswatini National Petroleum Company. My name is Lungilele Makakula. Thank you for joining us on the program this afternoon. On the 30th of May 2024, the Central Bank of Eswatini, together with the Monetary Policy Consultative Committee, held a meeting to consider the appropriate monetary policy stance, taking into consideration relevant global, regional and domestic economic factors, as well as the price and financial stability mandate. The bank decided to maintain the discount rate unchanged at 7.5%. The Central Bank of Eswatini has also kept the prime lending rate at 11%, which will see no relief in loans borrowed by Eswatini in different financial institutions. The prime lending rate has remained the same since July last year. We'll be joined by Terence Twala, who is a financial literacy advocate, to talk to the latest monetary policy statement released by the Central Bank of Eswatini on Friday last week. And in other news, the European Union has supported the Federation of Eswatini business community with about 400 million malangeni to train graduates on technical vocational skills. All this on the program later today. The head of business Trans on our last segment will also look at today's financial markets with Asani Lesbia. For now, let's go to business news. The European Union has supported the Federation of Eswatini business community with about 400 million malangeni to train graduates on technical vocational skills. The head of business transformation, Mavela Sikwane, when detailing what they are doing to create employment opportunities as a federation.
The Minister of Economic Planning has reported that about 70% of graduates do not have employment opportunities, and the Labour Force Survey of 2021 states that about 58.2% of the country's youth is unemployed. The head of transformation at the Federation of Eswatini Business Community says they have seen it fit to contribute to creating employment for the graduates in an EU-funded project which will start next month.
Lesibendile-ke singifirst ne-TVET college, nama-TVET colleges, kunababendlu of principal wegwamile vokuthini, ne-Ministry of Education, nathi ngala ne-Ministry of Commerce, including Ministry of Labour, because lama scholarships la funda labantwana aqhamuka from Ministry of Labour lekuba ngumnyango wokwenda lama scholarships. Let's look into this issue. Sakhanza ukuthi vele inkinga lenkulu ukuthi kukhicitwa employee minded people. That is no, first ngenelele abuyise bonke labantwana lesebatrainiwe banikwe le mindset bayoba labasebenzayo siba-converted to being employers. Job seekers they convert even job creator. So unfortunately, this fund it's 400 million. We are looking at basically getting to a target 100%. Recall labala sebanema qualifications labanika ukuthi bofuna umsebenzi. Siba convert fully babe ma job creators, because the strategic positions Swaziland sithi uthi nehapa une rail facility le philako, so we can run the logistics using that.
FirstBig's head of transformation continues to say that the program will run for 7 years with the possibility of continuing if the EU is happy with the results. He further says they want the graduates to be job creators. He states that at the moment they are finalizing the logistics on identifying the graduates. For ENPC Market View, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
Countries under the African continent have to sort out cost of transport and logistics issues, also harmonize customs systems and improve connectivity, amongst other things, for the African Continental Free Trade Area agreement to be a success. This has been said by the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Wamkele Mene, during the Secretariat's visit to Eswatini, amongst other things, that ascertain the country's readiness to trade under the agreement.
So the proposition is that from a private sector point of view, from a business point of view, it makes eminent sense to look at another market and to look at expansion and investment and establishment of supply chains into other markets. And so the African market, we would all be well advised to consider it as a market that provides the certainty, the predictability that we need for our goods and our services to flow. And the reason is this, that we've crafted rules in the AfCFTA that provide market access, investment access. When you upset someone in Washington, or you upset someone in Brussels, or any other capital outside of the continent, you will be shut out of that market. And you will have to scramble for an alternative market at that time. Of course, there are challenges, and the challenges will be with us for some time. The cost of transport and logistics, the cost of moving goods across regions of the continent is significantly high, and in some cases it can be said that it is prohibitive. The cost of connectivity, movement of business persons is a challenge. And of course itself, as we all know, the difficulty of moving business persons across the continent, the existence and imposition of visa regulations, that too is a constraint to intra-Africa trade.
And that's it for our business news. It's 7 minutes after 2. Let's quickly go for an ad break. Sabiya Konamanja.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu sivile sive sikhulume
Welcome back. You're still watching Market View, sponsored by the Eswatini National Petroleum Company. Thank you for staying with us. The Central Bank of Eswatini has capped the prime lending rate at 11%, which will see no relief in loans borrowed by Eswatini in different financial institutions. The prime lending rate has remained the same since July 2023. The Central Bank has also highlighted again that different sectors are struggling to service debts. We are now joined by Terence Twala, who is a financial literacy advocate, to talk to the latest monetary policy statement, which was released by the Central Bank last week, Friday. A very good afternoon. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Twala. As I've said, CBE released the monetary policy statements last week. How is it impacting the consumer?
Afternoon, Lulu, and afternoon to the viewers at home. Basically, we can say, as you have correctly stated, there is no change. So if they are keeping the repo rate at 7.5, it means the prime rate will still remain at 11, of which whosoever was having an ongoing loan with at any commercial bank in the kingdom, they are still going to be paying the same amount. Yeah. But we stand to, in anticipation of what will happen on the next meeting of the committee, because we believe a bit that it was influenced by the political atmosphere in South Africa. And now that the voting in South Africa is over and the next meeting of the committee, we're not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, and nothing has changed. Interest rate now has remained unchanged. What does this mean for that person that owes the bank? Loan a bank. Can we expect this trend to continue?
Yes, when we talk about the central bank talks to the repo rate, which is the repurchase rate, or the rate at which they borrow the commercial banks at, which is 7.5. Then the commercial banks then further borrows the individual Eswatini and businesses at prime rate. So if the repo rate changes, which if they changed either upward or downward, the 7.5 to 8 or to 6 point something, it was going to affect the installment that the individuals or the businesses were paying, of which now everybody that is paying any installment will still pay the same installment, which is good news to anyone with an ongoing loan.
Okay, so and also inflation now also remains unchanged. Nakhona, what does this mean for the consumer?
Inflation, it remains unchanged, but the very same statement is talking to an anticipation of increasing from the 4.1, which it is ongoing now, to 4.5 around November. But it means the food prices are a little bit stable because it is on the lower side, though we are anticipating that it will, as it has been stated, it will change. The inflation means basically talking to the prices of food, to say we will still be anticipating to buy at the more or less the same level at which we are paying for food now.
Okay, seeing ukuthi you're a financial literacy advocate, ubuketona tindzaba nje tema finances, ku-advisor. Ufuna sibuke nje mhlambe on savings plans, savings rule, ukuthi yatlo ukuthi kune rule yabo 30%, 70%. Ufuna sibuke lokho ukuthi vele as consumers, because vele nje basisho ukuthi vele umnotfo tonke timfo tidulile, tiyabita, sinetikweleti ngalapha nangapha, we have so many debts, we owe so many people. Saving, why is it important to save? Senda kanjani masifuna ku save? What's the first step?
Yeah, a complicated one, which we need to unpack. A lot of people are in debt. So I personally always advise people not to save or invest when you're in debt. Because the truth is, whatsoever you are earning through your investments, it's always lower than you will earn when you are paying off debts. So I always say people must prioritize paying off debt first, then investing or saving later. But to those who are still financially okay, they can go ahead and invest, because the same inflation and the prime rate that hasn't changed is talking to investment also, to say the investment will also continue giving us the same investment returns, which from the investment houses, they go from 7.5 to others to 11. So we are encouraging those who still have some residual income to continue investing, because the returns are much better currently. But if you are having debt, I always say it's best you clear your debt first, then invest a substantive amount, which will give you quicker returns than to be going out there investing 200 Temalanga and earning 3 cents on it a month. So it doesn't help.
Yeah. So how do we even get there, you know, having so many debts? I think we note that the cost of living is too high, and how do we even get there? And how can we shift away from it?
The truth of the matter is, as long as we live our lives beyond our means to be validated by people, we will always be doing things that we don't need with money that we don't have. So you find yourself that you are taking debts for things that you could otherwise have avoided, but you need to maintain a certain standard of living. So we encourage people to accept who they are, accept their salaries, and try to live within their means. The day you live within your means, it is the day you will realize probably that life is not as expensive as you think. And when you realize that life is not expensive as you think, then you will be left with something to invest. But more than that, we always encourage people to do something more. We have 24 hours in the day. 8 hours for your 8 to 5, the other 8 hours for your side hustle or business,
and then you can rest the other 8 hours. So whenever I talk to people, we always fail to account for the second 8 hours. What do you do between when you knock off at 5 to 12 midnight? You need to be doing something extra. Then you will definitely have something extra to invest.
All right. So take us through the savings plans rule. When you want to save, there's a certain amount like we save. To month end. What is the rule?
All right, thank you. There are so many budgeting methods, but I prefer the 50, 30, 20 rule of budgeting, where we say out of your net pay, which means your gross minus statutory deductions, that is your pension, your medical aid, and your ENPF. So whatsoever money that remains there, you take 50% of it and you cover your basic needs. When we talk about your basic needs, we mean your food, your shelter, your transport, your school fees, and everything. Then the 30% then talks to covering the necessities, but what we call your wants, not needs, to make your life comfortable, to be living as someone who is working. But that one is controlled by you. And the 20% remaining, we then say people must invest 10% of it, and 10% must cover debt. So you see, out of 100%, your debt percentage must be 10% or up to 20% if you are not investing. So the problem then starts from when someone is having debts more than the 30%, which is now, because we say when you are in trouble, the least you can do is not to have entertainment, but have 30% debts and investment, then you still are fine, but not in a comfortable position. So why do we say people must take 50% of their net income and cover needs? We say that because if your needs are covered, you are less likely to fall into unplanned debts. You have food, you bought electricity, you bought water, you have transport money, you have school fees. So what possibly can make you borrow unplanned money? The possibility of that is close to zero. That is why then I prefer this method.
All right. So do you actually have people that practice this rule? Is it even practical?
Very much practical. I use it every day. I use it every day. You are earning 10,000. Take 10, your 5,000 goes to your needs. Your 3,000 goes to your, that is what we call the entertainment. Then your 2,000 goes to your debts and investments. See the rate for debts and investments. It's only 20%. Because there is another problem where you find people over-investing. You find that people that take 5,000 of 10,000 to investments, fixed investment for that matter, and whenever life gives them now things to attend with their money, they don't have money, then the cycle of unplanned debt starts because you have money but you can't access your money. We always say have investments enough, have debts enough to service within your salary.
Yeah, because financial literacy advocates like you, Mr. Twala, have been advising people to save money, to budget, and to plan. You find that some have multiple saving streams. Is that advisable? Is it safe to do that?
It is the stretch. How much have you stretched yourself? Should something unplanned, any risk occurs, can you survive? That is the question you need to ask yourself, because you also need to have it at the back of your mind that whenever you commit today for a 10-year long-term investment, the premiums for the very same investment will increase for the years until maturity. So if you are starting with 1,500 emalangeni today and the premium will increase by 5-6%, will you cope with the annual increment? Because that is when we will then say you have over committed on the investment. Don't invest because you think you have money today, but think of things that can happen, or most definitely that will happen. Let me say you have just started working. You will want to get married in the 10 years. You will want to have a baby in the 10 years. You will want to have a car. So many things. So don't commit money that you will need in the 5th year, because people end up harvesting their investment prematurely and losing what the investment were meant to get them.
All right, quick one, 30 seconds just before I let you go. Is it advisable to consolidate all your debts? Yes, is it helpful in a way?
Yes, it is. But provided you are owing official banks, because the trick of consolidation, we mean when the bank clears your debt, it must clear all your debt so that you can focus on the bank alone. But you find that people have unregistered debts, they owing everyone outside, and you consolidate, the bank consolidate what is official and documented, and they are still owing Bomashonis outside there. Even if they've consolidated, because the consolidation will lower your monthly installment, but still you will take the remaining amount and pay Bomashonisa. So you need to make sure you avoid these unregistered and unregulated credit providers.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Mr. Twala. That was Mtera. Mr. Twala, who is a financial literacy advocate, just giving us his advice on how to plan, how to budget, and how to save. The central bank released their monetary policy statement last week. As we look at the financial markets this afternoon.
sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu
Sibile sive sitikhulumeni.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Welcome back. You're watching Market View, sponsored by the ENPC, Eswatini National Petroleum Company. At this moment, let's take a look at financial markets this afternoon with our in-house economist, Mr. Sanele Sibia. Very good afternoon, Mr. Sibia. Thank you for joining us. Last I checked, the South African rand was slightly stronger early on Monday, with analysts expecting coalition negotiations to be the main driver this week. Currencies, dollar against Elilangen.
Good afternoon, Lulu, and good afternoon to the viewer. Yes, when we are looking at markets in terms of currencies, we're seeing that the rand has somehow, the Lilangen has somehow steadied, because it's linked to the rand. So what we are seeing is that is purely due to the fact that, we've had the election, we've had coalition talks, and it seems, we are still in a smooth transition type of period. So markets are still just waiting to see what type of coalition is going to come out. And we are all hoping for a market-friendly type of coalition. So yeah, that's why we are seeing the Lilangene rallying against all major currencies. And it's gained a bit of ground.
All right, so no, give Mr. Sibia. I think Mhlambe, just moving on to commodities, just in the interest of time, they seemed steady this morning. How are they performing, Nyalo?
Still commodities are a bit steady, even though there is that, those marginal losses, but that's still a steady type of situation, type of scenario. So that is actually on the backdrop. You would see gold and, oil. Gold per se is actually waiting on the interest rate news that are going to come out today, and so is oil. And also we've seen the OPEC really not just trying to preempt weaker demand with interest rates staying higher for longer, but yeah, we know that gold is actually also looking out to what's going to happen in Europe and then probably Canada, and then in overall the Asia region.
Yeah. All right. So mhlambe nasibuka nje the international markets. There's a lot going on in Europe. There's a lot going on in Asia. Ingabe, how are the markets performing that side?
So markets, if we start with the US, we will see that, the US is actually opening up with mixed signals. What we are seeing there is, the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average are actually closing a bit higher with just a bit of losses on the Nasdaq Composite. That's purely because what we are looking at is the fact that, the markets have priced in the higher interest rates for longer. But there's a lot of of data that's going to be coming out this week. We have a lot of purchasing managers indexes that are going to come out this week. So that's actually going to give more direction in terms of where the US economy is going to go. And markets are a bit optimistic that we are going to see a stronger economy, which actually, with the weakening numbers in inflation, the cooling down in the economy. So then the markets are somehow trying to rally against behind that to see whether and repricing interest rate cuts to be a period that's going to be a bit closer. So that's why we are seeing those mixed signals in the US. And then if you go to Europe, what is actually happening in Europe is it's quite interesting. There is the purchasing managers indices are already out in Europe, and we're seeing in London there are those marginal signs of growth. Yeah, we are seeing that, in terms of our manufacturers, the orders are also increasing. So that's the data that's coming out this week. They're showing increased orders, well above the median, at least for this month. And then when you go to Frankfurt, you will see that, in Frankfurt, there's been some increases in the purchasing indices. We've seen those increases in those purchasing indices as well. So they're declining, but at a slower rate. Same thing that we are seeing in France. And also what we are waiting for in London and in the overall Euro region today, we are hoping to see, the Bank of England will be actually making their decision on interest rates on Thursday. And so we're also expecting the European Central Bank to be doing the same. And when you look into the ECB, there are those promises for rate cuts to start coming in now in June. So the markets are really pricing that in. That's why we are seeing the markets rally to above 8,000 in France, and then still the FTSE is just gaining ground at above the 8.2, going back to the 8.3 region. So that's what is driving markets in London today, in Europe. And then if you go to Asia, what we are seeing in Asia happening is, Asia is waiting and awaiting to see what is actually going to happen in terms of the interest rate, decision in Europe and across the globe. Actually, what this week is going to be signaling is whether the Federal Reserve Bank is the one championing this ship, or the Europeans and the Brits are actually going to break and just move on their own, leaving the ECB at a higher for longer type of scenario. So what we are then seeing there is, the markets are waiting and they're a bit awaiting that, and they're a bit expectant and positive. It's just that in Shanghai we are seeing a bit of losses. That's probably because, the markets are expecting further intervention so that the Chinese economy starts producing gains. And then coming down to Johannesburg, we are seeing that, the JSE is also trying to rally just like the rand, probably just rallying to the fact that, markets have actually shown signs of steadiness. The election, it's been free and fair and peaceful. So what the markets are now pricing in is the scenarios for the different coalitions that might happen. Either we go for a GNU or we go for those coalitions. And, the interest rates have stayed at the very same level. So markets have actually priced that in while we're waiting for the Federal Reserve Bank to really bring back things to the median. And then in our local economy, we know that the Eswatini Stock Exchange still trades at around 479.2 overall. So still there hasn't been any change on that side, purely because we have surpassed earnings season in Eswatini, which is likely to come back in October, and that's when we might see more growth.
All right. Thanks so much, Mr. Spear, for that market analysis this afternoon. We've come to the end of our program, Lomuhla. Thank you for joining us. It's 2:30. This show was brought to you by the Eswatini National Petroleum. Thank you for joining us, Lomuhla. We'll see you again at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Have a lovely day. Tsala kahle.